we're gonna get into lights and shadows, and so we're gonna go over some of the principle in science, how light and shadow works, and how does that apply onto a portrait. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time on the rendering part of it because it's gonna involve some gradations, show how to achieve a sense of structure using the laws of light theory. So let's get started. So I'm gonna start with this front view, a beautiful portrait, and so I'm gonna basically right now I'm blocking. You can see a major angles. Of the face. I can start with an egg, if I want to, but usually, like I mentioned in the other lessons, that if I do just a little more careful drawings, more refined drawing, I tend to start sculpting a little more, and so I can really kind of aware of the angles, the relation of the relationships of the mark that I make. It looks a little low. I think that's better. So I see how far the jaw comes below from the earlobe. And you notice when I land, I do this a lot. I go this directions, I go this directions, I go this directions, I go this directions. I keep up a couple of things. First, I keep them all overlap. Second of all, I tend to run in different directions. What that means is, if this line goes this way, the next line will go this way. This line go this way, the next line go this way. So probably not that not that curve, but in somewhere still have to give a kind of little how do I say, and stages can give a little bit of life to my to these guidelines. And again, really make sure move your arm. Finding strays, right? That's something very important. Drawing too long better than too short. Larger angles that will help you to not to get so tired too. Because if you look at all the little nuance of from the models, it can get really tired, especially if you draw from life. So if we can describe some area just with one single strokes, let's do that. And later on, we can find smaller, break into the smaller details. I use the shadow to find where the top. Look at this distance. Find where the top of the eyebrow. See, if I look at this distance, look at this angle, now I got a nice vertical line right here, right? And I can compare this angle. So that's why how important to keep those sculpting method versus people like to draw quick and using this lot of circular, kind of circular motion. It's maybe work for a quick sketch, but I like to have some. I like to have some straight. I can depend on it. That's remember the arch? Take you to right over the eyelid. Eye lined. Let's give a sense of the cheekbones. Here we got here we got shadows. So you might ask me, like, so where all those plane of the head, where all the planar breakdown that I did with lesson one, I still have them in my head. But like I also mentioned, if I'm actually drawing from life and also drawing from a pictures, I want able to draw from my observations. Right, this is this is more of a observation drawing. So I'm not drawing just from what I know. I also want to draw from what I'm seeing, right? And I want it to be true, to my art and to really capture what I see, translate that to my paper. Of course, later on, I am going to throw in some artistic, interpretations to make this feel a little more exciting the way I would like to look. But at least at the beginnings, I want to be a little more careful. I will make sure I still want to capture some of the truth elements in this portrait. Using what the image gave me. Mark down where that tear dot is. I wouldn't have I won't have time to do a full renderings, but what I wanted to show you is probably a more like illustrator approach, just a graphic, a dark and light patterns, right? Again, rendering just basically takes time, so I will just basically show you how I will block in and how I approach the tonal graphic design in the portrait. When I draw iris, I never just draw a circle or sphere. I'm always, even when I draw iris, well, first thing I'll do is that I look at how much distance of the white of the eyes. I don't just put the iris right away. I look at here's things I saw. Here's my tear dot. I look at how much distance from that tear dot, the white space, the white of eyes that I have, and that's when I put the iris. And then when I put it, I still thinking about chiseling like that. Okay. And be careful when you draw females. You don't want to make the tip of nose too wide. Remember the tear dot lines out to the about with the wing of a nose. So I bring this tear dot down. See, that's probably, even though I didn't draw it, but that's going to be where the wing of a nose is going to be. Bring out too long. Don't make it too short. Compared to this eyes, if I'm looking at this eyes, I'm also looking at this eyes also to make sure I get that symmetries. Looks like this side has a little more white. I see a triangle shape at the lower eyelid. I don't think about the roundness of the eyeball yet. All I just trying to visualize. You can see just the graphic shapes. Remember I said, see how the eyebrow looks like kind of hook up and come back down onto the side? We still need to make sure the eyebrow has to still set, at the beginning of the eyebrow still has to set on the eyebrow line. double check this distance here, the cheekbones, and where the hair, at this the side of the temple between the eyebrow and the hair. So I need to double check this distance. And then if you look, there's a lot of echoing relationship. If you take that corner of the eyebrow, or even this one, it's fine too. If you look at a picture carefully, take it diagonally, you can notice it's going to have a little zigzag or something. It's going to kick back, and then it's going to come back to the side of the face. That's good. That's a good thing. That's a benefit. It's a help to, again, to create these dot, kind of bring the viewer's eyes around. Okay, and I'm always trying to find that diagonal, relationships. Look at this angle, brings it back up. We see how you get that. Don't make it parallel. It's going to look kind of boring. But I still need to see. You see how they kind of echoing, and it's good to have wider on top, which you always think of. I'm always trying to avoid parallel lines, evenness. That's what I'm always trying to avoid in my drawings. Even when you get to the eyelid, we're going to talk about that. And I'm always trying to create somewhat a triangle. Well, somewhat a triangle shape, or something might not necessarily be triangle, but it could be wider on the top, like taper on the bottom. If I'm designing your shapes, if I run into an area like that, I'll mention it again. So follow the gesture, then come over here, and you see that's where the cheekbone kicks. Same thing, take that over to here. Take that point, continue, that's where the canal for the ear. Again, I still follow that apex right here, that cheekbone. Everything, I'm still thinking about the harmony, how the gesture flow, how all the gesture relates. More careful block in you have, probably a little bit less work you need to do at towards the end. because all you need to focusing on is to making sure all the rendering looks well. So you don't need to spend time to still fixing your proportions while you're doing the rendering. You're probably gonna do some degrees, but the major stuff you don't want it to move. While you start, while you're doing the refine stage, because that can sometimes can be ruin the whole pictures. That's a cast shadows. As we all know, the cast shadow has a hard edge, so I'm gonna make this shadow edge pretty firm. You probably don't want to make that the edge the hard edge all the way through. That long shadow is gonna look too sharp, too harsh. It's gonna create too much attention. So you don't want that. You could have, which you often what I'll do. You can have a beginning, the shadow. You can have a hard edge, and maybe at the end also have a little hard edge. The viewer is gonna fill in the middle for you, so you will have to draw all the way through. This would be the same process if I would do it on a newsprint, drawing from on the sitting on the benches and drawing from a life model, and you know using a black charcoals and instead of red charcoal. This is a same process. This is also the same process I will use a ballpoint pen, a fountain pen, or whatever tools I use, a marker. It would be I was still using the same process. Those certain exercise I might approach differently. For example, like the quicker sketches, 5 minute sketches, 3 minute sketches of the head. I will only concern the shadow mass and shadow shape. So I would just draw out the shadow shape and fills in. Instead have to kind of carefully carve out every major major shape like this. Taking much slower. But this is like I said, for a more refined study. That's how I would do it. I would drop the ear back, just because, push the face forward. That looks like it's a little more light, but I'm still gonna drop back a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna stop blocking my shadow mask. I'm gonna put in some the dark. Okay. Earlier I said, I don't like to design or draw anything, repeat or anything looks kind of even. So even that little, if you look at the eyelashes, first of all I kind of simplify it. Oh, I see just actually from reference. Oh, I see just a block of a black shapes. But you see how I want to make sure these two, the eyelashes are different. This a little wider, this a little bit narrower, this a little bit longer, this a little bit shorter. And I think I'm gonna draw the eyelid. Okay, that's gonna refer back to what I was saying here. And then you have to make sure the thickness, the distance, of the eyelid has to be different. Wider here, thinner there. I don't know if you can see, it looks a little dark. No, it's a little better. See, wider here, thinner there. You cannot, and then see if often people students make mistake. They make all the eyelid equal thickness. That's gonna flat out the eyeball. Imagine there's a round ball in there. You won't able to have the same same distance throughout, and plus it will it won't look good. I talk about in my structure lessons, this is the part that skin fills in. So you got a little darkness in here. Let me get rid of this line here. I don't know what that is. So again, that's still the side of that keystone shape. See how that kind of wrap around the eye? You got that beautiful rhythm again, goes back out here. I got some dynamic shadow on the shadow side. Again, you always get this strong wedge shadow shape on that beside the keystone. The reason I'm painting these darker value first because you might ask, what can I just fill in the whole shadow? Shadow side. I could do that if I'm doing a quicker, studies. But the thing is, I'm probably gonna lose some of the detail, within the, within like in the eyes. I'll probably lose some of the detail. So what I do is I'll punch in some of the dark. So when I fills in flat, kind of flatly on that when I paint the shadow flat, at least I still have the eyes sits underneath the shadows, so I don't need to go back in and draw the eyes. And then again, watch out for that, that kind of the rocket ball idea. Something swing to your left, something will swing to right. So you have that triangle shadow at the tear dot, feel like swing towards left, and you're gonna look at the cat shadow, it's gonna swing back this way, and you're gonna swing down this way again. And see how that echoes that little shape right there? This whole cat shadow from the nose, just this smaller, this is larger, but they kind of echoing to each other. Okay, now I might just start painting this. Make sure you need to get some shadow below the nose. See here, there's some distance show at the bottom plane of the nose. Let's paint the darker first, so I'm gonna paint the nostril. Again, it's a cat shadow, so I'm going to make a hard edge. It's going to drop down to the fill trunk a little bit. I'm going to go over. Oops, not this way. This way. And go swing out this way. I try to keep all my shadow at same value. Although, maybe the nostril is darker and this section of the keystone a little darker, but try to keep the major shadow the same value first. Be aware of that shape, the shadow, the angle of the shadows. So again, hard edge. This is not really a soft edge, it's still firm edge. I guess you can say this firm edge, hard edge, and then hard edge, firm edge, and the hard edge again. You can see when you put down the hard edge, it creates some tensions, and you need to ask yourself, is that the tension that you need? Cat shadow onto the lower lip. Step back. Again, another little hook shadows at the end of these lips. Lower lips, even though the lower lip is facing a light, but still we know that there's still a volume to the lower lip. Looks like a water hose. So you still got top and the front and the bottom, right? So highlights probably is going to sit at that corner. Again, also you got the cast shadow around the side, so you won't need to still need to give some tone to it. So you can see how for reference, you can see how the highlight sits at that corner. And help me to bring out that lower lip is the shadow underneath. Yeah. Okay. So my major graphic shadow shape is pretty much done. And you can see make sure to keep it graphic. Think about as making black and white copies. So all you get is just flat light and shadow, kind of graphic shapes. And we can go back in and pushing some of the halftones, or putting down some additional plane. But all that is going to be grouping to your light side. Okay. I'm thinking okay, so you can see if I here get back to the structures. Here's the top of the cheek. Here's the side. You can see from reference 2, the side gets a little bit darker. Since the light source is on our left and the right side, I'll make sure the gradations kind of goes from light to dark this way. Here's the corner. Somewhere right here is the corner. That's where the highlight is going to be. Think of an egg, bring up to that corner. The nose overall is kind of warm too. Usually when you're painting, it's going to be quite warm. Here's the top of the nose, here's the side of the nose. Again, here's going to be the highlights, and you can see outside the ball of the nose, there's a little highlight right there. The keystone going to be a little darker. I'm gonna bring the halftone from my shadow into my lighter side. So here a catch highlight. Here should have received highlight. A little bit hard to see from reference, but like looks like highlights since it's right here. Again, this the plane that turns. That's this plane kind of facing up this way, and then you got that corner plane, and then you got the side plane. The muzzle here is always also catch highlight because it's the plane that facing out, because that's the muzzle. Remember the muzzle that protruding out. The corner of the chin also we're gonna catch highlight again. This is a box that also protruding out. So kind of just gonna gear towards my highlight. When plane changes, the value changes. I can probably go back in and punch in some of the dark. I want to show the chords a little bit clear. So here's you can see that's where the core shadow is. I'm going to push that a little bit darker. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so I can continue, kind of keep working on this, uh, till to get, obviously, to see how refined I can get. I probably will, I probably will go back, um, using a darker value like my browns or my black to really push out some of the, the contrast. But like I said, this, just for the time, you know, limitation we have. But at least I kind of take you guys through from the just the from the observation of the construct the laying part, the construction part, and then just kind of blocking in, blocking and filling in the shadow mask, and kind of start kind of developing on the front of that of that shot, just basically shadow and light difference, and slowly working to the halftone. And like I said, for the rest of the rendering process, just basically just takes time.